This basement was built by a novice DIYer, and each week you get to learn more about how he did it.
Hey there, this is the episode about doing the subfloor, the different steps I take, the materials and videos that I follow, see if they really work for somebody who really knows nothing. So you may be wondering why I am currently sitting on part of my subfloor instead of actually installing it. Well, it turns out my video camera wasn't working properly, so my apologies.
Losing those videos is not the only thing I need to apologize for. This camera resolution sucks. Sorry about that.
We're actually doing 3 layers. We're putting an inch of foam core on top and then a 3/4 inch OSB. Wish I invented that. Thought I did, but then I found a video that did that as well. So you'll see a link for that.
A 3-layer subfloor isn't going to be right for everyone. If your winters aren't consistently below 50 degrees, it probably isn't worth doing the insulation layer. But I would install a vapor barrier no matter how new your house is, because you don't really know how things were installed underneath your concrete, and shit happens. Keep in mind what you're really solving for. You want it to be dry, you want it to be warm. I don't know about you, but we go around our house in socks all the time. You want to be able to do that down in the basement too. One thing to keep in mind is that you're never going to upgrade your subfloor after you install it. That's why I say don't skimp on the subfloor. I used a product called DMX One Step for my vapor barrier. What I liked about the DMX One Step is that it was a little bit softer than the hard vapor barriers. This other video really does a good job explaining why it's important to have a little cushion, particularly when you're doing a basement floor, because basement concrete floors are not necessarily even. Now he uses a landscape barrier underneath his vapor barrier. DMX One Step kind of has that softness built in, and that's why I preferred it. You also can see that the DMX roll is not too big, so it's easier for a DIYer to do it by themselves. The one other system that I've seriously considered is called dry core. It's basically a combination of insulation and water management. It was just too expensive for me to do it for this square footage. Installing a vapor barrier is pretty straightforward, as long as you're thorough and tape over every cut you make through it, even the accidental ones.
Okay, so that's it for today. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to finish my beer. So recommend this stuff. Easy enough to DIY to use. Really bumming that my whole video, the whole week worth of work, gone. There were some funny little quips too. Could have been entertaining. In any case, it is time to move on. Let me show you what I'm going to do next. Okay. This is the 1 inch XPS. Don't get EPS, get XPS foam core. What I'll end up doing is using this as my 1 inch spacer against the wall. So this, the vapor barrier I have almost to the wall, like within a 1/2 inch. But I'm going to put this and the OSB an inch away from the wall.
This is a good time to share a link to the video I followed for my installation process. In addition to showing me how to screw my subfloor into the concrete, the installation video I followed also gave me the tip about leaving the 1 inch space around the edges. I decided to secure my subfloor to the concrete underneath, rather than have it float on top. Walls might shift a little on a floating subfloor, causing cracks and nail pops. On the other hand, I'll be spending tons of time and money on the subfloor only to poke holes in it. If I was in a home with known water issues, I probably would have gone with a floating subfloor.
I'm going to end up hiring, this is like one of the few things I'm going to hire somebody to do, but I really looked into it, and because of the amount of space that I'm doing, it is worthwhile hiring somebody to do spray insulation. And they'll do all the walls, get a great R value, yada, yada, yada. So once the walls are up, and the wiring's in and gets inspected, I'll have them come to do the spray installation. That only really is cost effective for me because I'm doing so much square footage. If you're not doing that much square footage, you may actually want to take something like this and do the vapor barrier and glue it. And there's videos, I'm not going to link those because I didn't follow them.
It turns out that the guy I followed for my 3 layers also did put formulaire on the walls for insulation. I'm going to share that link as well as a link to the spray foam just so you can get a feel for what that's like too.
I went back and forth, am I going to do a board? There's a polyiso boards. That's what I would have used on the walls, but it was almost the same price for me to hire somebody and I don't have to do it. Once I get this down, I'll put OSB and line it up the same way. Then I drill all the way down to the concrete and put these non-Tapcon but very Tapcon-like screws in. This is like a 3.5 inch, 1/4 inch wide screw. First you gotta pre-drill. So I'm gonna try to do that with an impact drill. May not work, so I might have to rent an SDS drill, I think they're called. Once you drill the hole, you vacuum it out, put a dollop of just generic silicone in there, and then drill in. The one video that I turned out doing something similar like this did not secure it. They kept it floating. I'm gonna secure it because I'm putting all my walls on it. If you already have your walls up and you're just using this in between, then you probably don't have to screw it. You can see what the other guy did. He seems to be happy with his results. Okay.
A subfloor is an important but often overlooked part of a finished basement. What I found is there's no perfect right way to construct it. There are definitely some wrong ways to do it. If you stick to the expert video links I provided in the description, you'll end up just fine. Just keep in mind that even great expert videos can provide some subjective information. For example, the video I linked to from the Home Renovation DIY guy shares a lot of good information about floating and non-floating subfloors, but he kind of puts down the DMX one step simply because of how they're marketing it. As a DIYer, you need to find the ideas that work for you. Hopefully the links I provided will save you some time.
So what I'm gonna do now, I'm just gonna cut this into some strips to create some 1-inch spacers around the wall. We'll start laying this stuff down. I'm gonna tape them together just a little bit so that they don't shift too much. Once I get a maybe a half of this, then I'm gonna start putting in some OSB. Because this is a 4-foot wall, which is the width of this, so more or less. Actually, everything's smaller. It's kind of funny. You can't have a dozen eggs and there's 11 eggs. How can you have a 4x8 board that's not 4x8? And I kind of get it a little bit more on the studs, but still, it's just wrong.
I think I'm going to close things up here and continue the subfloor installation on another video. Who knows what kind of shit's going to go down, so be sure to check it out.